Okay. It says we have a value of x between pi and 3 pi. So x lives in this domain, I suppose. 3 pi over 2. And we want to solve when secant of x is equal to -2. Now, there's a couple of ways that you could do that.
I wrote secant of x wrong.
We got to remember that secant of x is the reciprocal of cosine. So, secant of x is equal to 1 over cosine of x. And we want to know when that's equal to -2. Now I'm going to write it this way. I'm going to say -2 over 1, and you'll see why in a second. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to do this by hand, and then I'll show you how to do it on a calculator. So when we have something like this, I'm not going to say a whole lot, but as you look at that, what are you guys thinking? Is this something that we might cross multiply? Maybe. Okay.
Smart.
I was going to ask, is there something we should do? And she's already way ahead of me. Very good. All right.
That's my boyfriend who could be watching this in third hour.
So if I cross multiply, I get 2 cosine of x, which is equal to 1 times 1, which is 1. Now I'm gonna divide both sides by -2, and I get cosine of x is equal to -1 over 2. Now I think we can use the unit circle to get this value. Okay? Now the reason I say that is because we have 2 special triangles, right? We have the 30-60 triangle, where this is 30 degrees and this is 60 degrees. And then we have the isosceles 45-45 triangle. Now we know that this is 1 square root of 2. And the shortest side is the one across from 30. So that's 1. The hypotenuse is 2. And then the one left over is the square root of 3. And we're looking for cosine that has a -1 over 2. Now cosine is actually the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So it's probably not this triangle. And if I leave this at 30 degrees, it's not that triangle either. Well, let's think about that. It's the triangle, but we got to think about the adjacent. What's the adjacent of 30 degrees?
90, 60 degrees.
Now listen to me carefully. If 30 degrees is our angle,
31.
what is the adjacent side of that triangle?
Square root of 3.
Square root of 3. Do you see the square root of 3 over here anywhere?
No.
No. So what I'm trying to lead you to think about is cosine of theta is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Does the hypotenuse part match up? Yeah, 2. So how do I make 1 be the adjacent? Yeah, we gotta think, instead of terms of the 60 degree or the 30 degree angle, we gotta think in terms of the 60 degree angle. That would make this the opposite. This still just kind of stays the hypotenuse. But when this is the angle, then this becomes the adjacent. Right? And then we have a negative sign we need to contend with. But I don't know if you guys realize this. They gave us a clue as to how to deal with that negative sign. What angle for theta did they give us? Or x, I should say.
-2.
It has to live between pi and 3 pi over 2. So on the unit circle, where's pi?
Right.
Yep. And then this is 3 pi over 2, correct? So what quadrant is that?
That's the third.
The third quadrant. So I'm going to construct a 60-degree triangle, right? Where this is 60 degrees, and this is 2, and this is 1, and this is the square root of 3. Is that correct? Is that right? All right. Now, this point right here, that the length from here to here is 1. But what's the, if we were to graph this point right here, what would this be?
-1, 1.
-1, and then the y value would be
2.
root 3,
Yeah.
right? With a radius of 2. So we're used to thinking of the unit circle where the radius is always 1. So is that the right answer?
Yep.
Actually, this would be negative root 3 when I think about it. Let's double check. How could I double check that? Well, there's lots of ways, but I'm going to graph it to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first and foremost graph the equation. I'm going to clear all these things out. Now, how do I graph secant?
1 over cosine.
1 over cosine. So I'm going to say 1 divided by cosine of x. And I'm going to hit enter. Now, for the window, what do I want my x min to be?
Negative root 3.
What do I want my window to be?
Zoom standard.
No.
Zoom fit.
What do I want my x min to be?
Pi. Pi.
What do I want my x max to be?
3 pi over 2.
3 pi over 2. So I'm going to say pi. Then I'm going to say 3 times pi divided by 2. Now I'm just going to double check and make sure that I'm in radian mode. I am not. So that would have messed me up big time. So now I'm going to go to radian mode. And I'm almost done. Now when it comes back to the graph, wait, I'm not done with the window yet. I'm not quite done with the window yet. What do I want my y value to be?
5.
Huh?
No, never mind.
What are we expecting? What are we solving for? What are we trying to find? What was the question? Solve when secant of x is equal to -2. So where do I want to zoom in the y direction at? Yeah, around -2. So I think we're okay because the window goes from -4 to 4. So one last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph. What am I going to graph?
The real formula.
Huh?
Decision of x.
No. How do I solve when secant of x? I've got secant of x already graphed, and I want to know when it equals -2.
So you're just going to do -2.
There you go. I'm just going to graph -2, and then what am I going to do?
See where
See
they
the
intersect.
intersection.
See where they intersect. Now, since we're doing this in radian mode, and I said the angle was 60 degrees, can somebody tell me what 60 degrees is in radians?
Simplify.
185.
Yeah, so if pi is equal to 180, what do I do to 180 to get down to 60?
Divide by 3.
So what is this going to be?
Pi divided by 3.
Pi divided by 3, or pi over 3. It should be, right? Now, we'll double check that. The calculator is going to spit out a decimal, And then on the next screen, we'll take pi and divide it by 3, and the decimal should be close to the same. So let's do this. Let's find the intersection. So I'm going to hit second trace, which gives me my calculate menu. I'm going to hit 5 for intersect. I'm going to get really, 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 really close to where the two intersect. Hit enter, hit enter, hit enter, and I get 4.18. Uh-oh. Let's double check that. 4.18. Now, you could tell because that's larger than pi. Oh, wait a second. If it's larger than pi, didn't we say we're from pi to 3 pi over 2?
Yep.
All right, let me bounce back. This might be right still. So when I say 60 degrees here, what am I really saying? Where do we start? We start at 0 degrees, right? So if I go all the way over here, how far have I traveled?
185.
I've traveled pi. Now to get to this point here, how far did I travel?
Pi over 2.
Well, pi over 3, because I didn't come all the way around. I just stopped right here. So what's the total angle? Remember, pi over 3 is the reference angle. What's my total angle?
Plus 60. 180 plus 60.
Yeah, 180 plus 60, or pi plus pi over 3. So let's check something. We have 4.18879, right? I want to see something. If I come in here, oops. And I say pi plus pi divided by 3. When I hit enter, what should we expect to see?
4.1.
Yeah, 4.188, whatever we had on the last screen. So what angle is it?
That pi over 2 plus
Pi plus pi over 3. Yeah. Now
So
we can let's simplify that a little bit. So if I have pi plus pi over 3,
2 pi.
and I want a common denominator, so I'm gonna multiply this by 3 on the bottom and multiply it by 3 on the top. What is that total?